Hi, first graders and first grade parents, Ms. Pagan here. We're going to talk about our journal for today. You're going to need a few materials in order to get this done. The first thing you're going to need is either a journal that would look something like this that you might have picked up from school a week ago. If you have lined paper or white paper, that should work just as well. Preferably something with lines, but again, if that's not accessible, then white paper would do fine. The whiteboard could also work too. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by writing the date at the top. I showed you this in the writing expectations video, but I will show you again what we would want our students to do. In the top corner, in the right-hand corner, we would want them to write the date. So today's date would be a 4/20/2020. I would then have them write their name at the top and their number, whatever their number is for the class. So I wrote my name, Miss Pagan, and I gave myself the number 25. Now we're going to go ahead and start by me first introducing what the topic is, and then I'm going to give your students some time to work on their picture, because in class we would typically start with a picture before we would start our writing so that they could kind of have some ideas generated for when it's time to start writing. So again, we are going to start with the date at the top. Today we're going to do an opinion writing, and this is a type of writing that all of the first grade classes have practiced before, and it may have been a while since they've done this kind of writing, but I'm going to walk you through it and your child through it step by step and give you some ideas about the sentence expectations as well. So our question that I'm posing today is, if you could choose an animal to train to help people other than a dog, what would you choose and why? So our story this week so far was about training guide dogs. But I want students to think right now about if they got to choose an animal other than a guide dog to help train that could help people, what would they choose and why? So sometimes it takes a little while for students to think about what they would like to draw and write about. So give maybe 1 to 2 minutes for them to think about it. Once they have their idea, make sure they share it with you so that you have an idea of what they're going to draw and eventually what they're going to write about. After they've come up with an idea of an animal that they would love to train to help people, we're going to give them about 10 or so minutes to draw a picture. Again, they don't have to finish their picture. We will give them time to finish tomorrow if they don't get to maybe coloring or finishing their details. But at least if they have a general idea of what their animal is and some details in that picture also to go along with that animal, they can draw themselves in the picture. They can draw themselves training the animal, how to do different things. It's up to them. It's their choice. Because again, this is opinion writing. So they're going to have to come up with their own reasons why their animal is a good animal for them to train to help people. So I'm going to give you and your student about 10 minutes for them to work on their picture, and then come back and I will go ahead and go over our writing expectations for today. All right, hopefully you had enough time to start your picture. Now we're going to move on to our topic sentence. So what I did is I gave 3 kind of general sentence starters that you could use to write your topic sentence, your first sentence. Remember, a topic sentence introduces our topic to the reader. So whatever animal you drew in your picture needs to be mentioned in your topic sentence. So remember, our question had to do with what animal you would like to train if you got to pick an animal to train to help people. So here are 3 sentence starters that you are more than welcome to use. You only have to use one to introduce your topic to your reader. The first one says, if I had to train an animal, comma, I would train a blank. So this is where you would put the name of the type of animal that you would choose to train if you got to train an animal of your choice. The second sentence starter, topic sentence starter, says, in my opinion, comma, training a blank would be the best choice. So again, you would go ahead and put the name of the type of animal where the blank space is. Now remember, it says A here, but maybe the name of your animal, the type of animal, starts with a vowel. So instead of saying a, you might have to change it to an, because remember, if the next word starts with a vowel, we don't use a, we use an. So just remember that if your animal starts with a vowel, you might have to make that change. Another sentence starter choice is, it would be great to train a blank to help people. Again, on the line is where you would write the name of the type of an animal that you would choose to help train to help people. So these are 3 sentence starters that you are more than welcome to use and copy down on your paper. You can even pause this video if you'd like to go ahead and copy one of these down. If you have a sentence starter that's a little bit different than one of these, you are more than welcome to use it as long as you are mentioning the type of animal that you are choosing and also the fact that you are choosing this animal to train it to help people. So if you are mentioning those important parts, then you can go ahead and make up your own topic sentence starter. Now remember, when we're writing in our journal or our lined paper or even our white paper or whiteboard, we always want to make sure we're starting at the top. We want to make sure we are starting at the left-hand side. We also want to make sure that we are using space as we go through. After you write your sentence starter, your topic sentence, you're going to stop and you're going to do your quick checks. Remember, there's 4 at the bottom. The first thing you're going to go back and do is touch your capital letter. If you started with an uppercase letter, give yourself a little check mark. If you don't have this at the bottom of your paper, you can just give yourself a little check mark at the bottom. Remember, you have to use finger space. So you're going to put your finger in between each word to make sure that you had space. If you were able to do that, you get to give yourself a check next to the finger space box. You're going to go back and check your punctuation. Now, on some of these, there's commas that you have to go back and make sure you put those in as well. Parents can help figure out where those are supposed to go. But you also know you need to end with a period. So please make sure you're able to go ahead and touch your period. If you're able to touch your period, then you get to give yourself your check mark. Finally, this is trying your best and whisper reading to go back to make sure it makes sense. So once you've written your sentence, you're going to go ahead and read it back to yourself, read it out loud for a parent or an older sibling, whoever you're working with. And if they agree that it makes sense, then you can go ahead and give yourself that last check mark. So we're going to make sure that we do all of our quick checks after each sentence that we do. We'll do a final check at the very end when we've written our whole paragraph, when we've written all of our sentences. We're going to go back and do one final check to make sure we didn't miss anything. But it's really important that we go back and check for each sentence that we have done each of these 4 things. Something really important that I need to mention to parents is about spelling. Now, when we write in the classroom for journal, the expectations are that if I give a sentence starter that they would like to use and copy, that all of those words need to be copied and spelled correctly. If it is a kindergarten or first grade sight word, we would also like those to be spelled correctly. Some of the first grade words are a little bit tricky, so if they need to refer to maybe a sight word card or a sight word list, or even maybe take your help figuring out a word, that's fine. All of the other words, they're going to use their sounds to figure out how to spell the word. We call it phonetic spelling. So we're not going to hold them accountable for being able to spell really long, complicated words that have a lot of letter teams or things that maybe are very unfamiliar. So if, again, they get stuck on a word, we always just say, use your sounds. So if they're trying to spell a word that has lots of syllables and things that don't really make a lot of sense, that don't follow traditional spelling rules, just make sure you remind students, use your sounds. It's okay if you spell it wrong. We don't grade on spelling. We just hold you accountable for those sight words and for any words that are copied from a board, a whiteboard. So please make sure you're not too hard on them and just making sure that they're trying their best to get their sounds out to spell their words. The quick checks, we hold them accountable for doing a nice job for a picture and trying their best. We hold them accountable for that, for trying, but we never ever dock their spelling for things that they have tried to use their sounds to spell. We don't want to discourage them to get their thoughts out and have them hung up on the spelling of things. So I'm going to give you some time to go ahead and work on that topic sentence, and then we will go ahead and go on to our first detail. All right, hopefully you got your first sentence done. Now we're ready to move on to our second sentence for the day. So after a topic sentence, we're going to start with detail 1, or our very first detail. What we're going to make sure we use today are transition words. So because we are starting at the beginning of our details, these are going to be beginning transition words. Here are a few examples of some of the beginning transition words that students can use to start their first detail sentence. The first one is first, starting with an uppercase and a comma afterwards. To begin with a comma. First of all, with a comma. And to start. So this is where students are going to get ready to explain why they chose the animal that they chose. Now the details can include things like what they would train the animal to do, how they could train it to help people. What are some things that the animal might be able to do to help people either get around or to reach things or to find things or anything they can come up with. We usually get some very creative responses from students, especially on these opinion writings. So make sure they share their idea first. This is always a good idea to do. We do it in class as well, making sure that students verbalize what their idea is before they go ahead and write it down. So have them tell you what is the first reason they would choose to pick their animal to help people, what they would train it to do. Why would that be a good choice? After they have vocalized their sentence to you, make sure that they have used a transition word in telling you their sentence, because what they're going to really do from there is pretty much write down exactly what they told you. So back to their journal, wherever they ended for their first sentence, they're going to start right next to where they ended, right where their period is. They're going to go ahead and start their next sentence. So if they started in the middle of the line, they need to, of course, go back to the middle of the line and go ahead and continue with their transition words and then start their first reason or their first detail. After they've written their sentence, that's when you go ahead and go back and do those quick checks again with them, making sure that they physically touch their uppercase letter, making sure that they touch the finger space in between their words, make sure they touch their periods, and go back and make sure that they have their commas after their transition words. And finally, they need to go back and what we call whisper read, go back and read to make sure it makes sense, that they didn't leave anything out, that their letters are nice and neat on the line, and then they can go ahead and give themselves that final check. So at the end of today, they just need to have a picture done, their topic sentence, and their detail 1. For tomorrow, we're going to go ahead and work on details 2 and 3, and then work on their conclusion. So by the end of Tuesday, they will go ahead and have a nice picture, a full paragraph with quick checks, and then they'll be ready to move on to a new topic on Wednesday. So if you have any questions about today's assignment, you can go ahead and email me. You can email your child's teacher and just let us know how else we can support you. So hopefully you found this to be helpful for their first official journal writing assignment. And again, if you need any help, please reach out. And good luck to you, and good luck first graders on your first journal assignment for distance learning.